Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to the Forged Alliance Forever promotional series. It's tip-top pro-level ladder action on the menu this afternoon, and the best news is I've got no news or information to waste your time with at the beginning of this one, so we can go straight to the action. It's going to be a ladder match, as we said, and it's going to go down on Eye of the Storm. I'm ready, you guys are ready, and the players are sure as hell ready, so let's go on over to the game zone and see how these guys are going to get on. Eye of the Storm, one of the early inbuilt maps belonging to FA. Just don't see very much of it anymore, but that's probably because of the vast quantities of maps that are coming forth from the map and modding community here at FAF. It's all about the new adaptive maps these days. That's what most people are playing, but these old ones crop up every now and again, and it's good to see them recycled. Let's take a look at our players up here at the top left-hand corner, going his very customary cyber in his not so customary blue. It is none other than the one and only, the quintessential Balance Baron. It is Zock himself, opening first land there, going second air, and next up down at the bottom right hand corner, he selected the very noble UEF. How very sensible of him. It is Mephi, and he's opening first land, going second air. So there we have it. Let's take a look at the openings for these guys while they get set up. I know how you like to do it. A little bit of a chatter going on there early on. Not many people know this, but I'm now fluent in German these days. Having watched so much Sockcom, I've absorbed the language by proxy. That's actually Mephi's famous recipe for onion soup there. Bit of an aficionado in the kitchen is our Mephi. Not many people know that. His onion soup is incomparable. You must try it. But Zock opening there with 2 P-gens and then going 4 P-gens after that, and hitting up the air factory after. We've got a little bit of an extra buffer from Mephi. He's going to go 5 P-gens after the initial 2. But both these guys, I think, getting the early engineer out to start work on the hydros. That's what we've got on. We've got 2 air factories queued up for Zock with a few extra power plants, but Mephi's going all out air production down here in the bottom corner. It would seem 4 air factories with a gajillion, and yes, that is a real number, a gajillion T1 P-gens to assist. So very nice indeed. Who's going to finish the hydro first? That's going to be Zock. Both sitting on 9 mass apiece. It's pretty difficult to make any early inroads on this map. The mass extractors where you could get an early advantage are a little bit further away. Suffice to say, both these guys seeming pretty on point with their power balance and whatnot, but Zock definitely with the very slightly more efficient start initially, having that early power bonus. That of course dissipates as time goes on. Curse the commentator comes in and Mephi catches up and overtakes. So that is the way of things. Eye of the Storm, of course, typically you will send your ACU out to one corner and all of your land forces out to the other in a desperate attempt to secure one above the other over your opponent. Every now and again you'll get a lucky draw, things will go well and you'll hit both corners, and typically that game will end pretty quick. Not likely to happen at this level, but you never know. I'm guessing you probably worked out that's not going to happen because I wouldn't have selected it for a replay if it did. But the early units, the early harassing units, are out now for these 2 guys. One solitary Snoop heading to the top right corner just as recon. We do have a Mech Marine, the Snoop for Mephi, heading up the left hand side. They're going to pass an early Mantis, which is unassisted with any intel units along there. We do have a Mole rolling out, but that's probably going to fall foul of the Mech Marine on the way past unless Zock hides it, which would be a smart thing to do. The Snoop up here is probably going to get gizzarded by this Mantis, which is rolling in. A whopping 2 DPS coming out from the Snoop. There's something to watch out for, but no real trouble for the Mantis as he rolls on past and blaps him in the face. And a nice little bit of maneuver there from Zock. Recognized the danger, took a little bit of fire, got him down to around 50% of the HP, but ultimately kept that unit alive. That's going to be useful for intel. So both ACUs heading out in opposite directions, which is a good thing in terms of game extension. Both of these guys looking like they're likely to pick up opposing corners. Looks like Mephi might grab the bottom left and Zock will hit the top right if the game progresses in the usual fashion. 1 kill there for that T1 bomber belonging to Mephi. We heard the bombs dropping in the background there. Let's take a quick look at interceptor numbers to see who's pushing air the most. 7 on the field so far for Mephi. Compare that to the 4 for Zock. Not really too surprising considering the extra air factories that Mephi has queued up. Definite priority into the air game, at least at this stage, for our resident UEF player. Transport complete for Mephi, followed by a scout plane. He's going to look to take a drop somewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes an early play at the middle of the map. Not much use trying to hold that later on when all of the naval units get into play, but you might as well pick it up early if you can and use some of the mass that will come off those early for mass extractors. A little air fracas over Zock's Bay. Mephi not quite as flush on aircraft numbers as he seemed to be early on, but still the exchange goes pretty well for him. Looks like he will maybe just about. Oh, it's all gone horribly wrong. Lovely little bit of air micro from Zock, completely turns that on its head, and no score draw essentially in that top left-hand corner for either player. Zock will hold the field by nature of positioning, but there is that drop we see from Mephi. 4 engineers airlift to the center. 2 will stay on board, 2 will get dropped off to expand. It looks like Mephi's making a play for the peninsula up here. Well, he's going to drop 1 off and then drop another one off over here as well. He's got 1 striker in the mix at the corner edge there, but it's going to be very hard to hold in the face of Zock's ACU, which is steaming into the area. Likewise down here, Zock has been trying to get a little firebase online, a couple of manufacturing facilities, just a few seconds short of getting the auto gun online. That might have caused a small minor headache for Mephi. They're taking some HP off him before he could have taken it out, but alas, not to be. And that should allow Mephi to get set up properly at the bottom left. Meanwhile, at the top right, as we return, Zock there shooing away the last forces of Mephi's before he starts setting up shop. And would you look at that? So Mephi manages to get a T1 PD online, but is taken out by a bomber there from Zock, paying good attention to potential dangers, and will, I imagine, once he's successful in taking down that T1 PD, expand elsewhere on the island. Was that a Control K? Feels like he doesn't need that land factory now. So Zock altering his approach in real time, as of course all of these guys are. But you know what I mean. Making decisions on the fly. Suspect that engineer won't be allowed a peaceful expansion. All of the interceptors out on the field. Mephi with some serious air production now. 22 interceptors on the map compared to the paltry 6 representing Zock at the present time. And he did indeed go for the full Monty, as it were, on these facilities. You don't always see them go full air when they queue up quite so many air factories. They don't always come to fruition. They might scale it back as the game progresses, but it does seem like Mephi is going to go for all 4, building the extra P-gens for that 4th and final factory as we speak. Quick capture order from Mephi. Will scoop that Cybran mass extractor. He's rebuilding the PD in the center. I want to get a radar up and a rail gun as well. He's got queued up the radar there. He's got 1 cheeky Cybran NG rolling in. That's going to get a Magnu. I always want to say Mangu, but it's Magno online before he tries to usurp control over the center. Both these guys now dipping the toe into the water, getting a naval yard online. Couple of Tiger Sharks for Mephi, already in Zock's Bay, harassing that naval yard, and then they switch up to go for the engineers over here, which are trying to get a Scuttle online. That's the Cybran T1 torpedo launcher. They're going to take out a lot of engineers before that completes, but they won't manage to prevent that from going online. They're going to be able to take out a Trident-class frigate on their way out, but alas, for Mephi's sake, no early deny on the Navy, but still, good effort at getting that Navy online first. Managed to get those subs across the map before Zock could get established. Mephi stationing his ACU at the northern edge of that bottom left-hand corner, losing a few units as they stroll ill-advisedly a little too far forward. And Zock at T2 land, sending over a single Wagner. Where is he headed? Heading out over here. And should manage to take down that T1 mass extractor that's coming on its way to 20% complete on the T2 upgrade. Is Mephi aware of that? He's got the radar signature there. We'll want to do something about that before the T1 PD goes online. And he's transitioned to T2 Air. Has he got T2 Land Tech on the way? Yes, he is, but he went T2 Air first of all and has a few gunships in the air already. He's going to send those north and start picking off mass extractors and vulnerable intel installments over here. Interceptors tangle with one another. Zock vastly outnumbered, but still manages to kill off the gunships. Mephi gonna change tack of his positioning, knowing he's killed off most, if not all, of Zock's inties. Gonna spread out and hit multiple targets at different areas of the map at the same time. Meanwhile, a Wagner incursion in the center will make short work of the resourcing options there in the middle for Mephi. Huge alpha strikes coming off those tanks, not particularly accurate, but when they land, do make a very loud bang indeed. Another mass extractor down. Mephi's going to get that stinger out of there before the banger manages to shoot it down. And now Mephi feels like it's time for a little probing assault. Had he gone a little bit earlier, he might have made more headway. I think the engineer's going to get this PD online. Doesn't actually matter. There's enough ground forces in the area to repel that attack. Is a Medusa, sorry, not Medusa, a Lobo in the mix there for Mephi. Might want to think about harassing that T1 PD. Now Zock looking dangerous at the eastern edge of the map. We have one T1 PD online and a handful of UEF units. However, we are sitting at Tech 2 over here. In come the Stingers. You'll want to take out the Banger first of all, which is exactly what they will do, and then they're going to go after the other T2 ground units. Wagner's getting pulled apart here like a Texas barbecue. Add in a T1 bomber as well, because why not? Mephi successfully defeats that little incursion, but I like what I'm seeing here from Zock. He's coming down the center here and splitting up these amphibious tanks, sending them off to various undefended locations. And it's been all go for the last 15 minutes or so. We haven't really stopped to talk about eco, and you can see there's a definite disparity between these two guys now. 47 to 65 in favor of guess who? That's right, Zock, the eco master. Certainly in map control terms, these guys pretty evenly balanced, but Zock ecoing harder as usual, while at the same time holding his own and picking his targets very nicely indeed. Janus on the field now for Mephi. That beautiful napalm effect there being deployed to good use, taking down a T1 mech and a radar on the peninsula. A few T1 bombers on the other side should grab that T1 mechs. A little bit of overkill even. Let's swing around for another pass on the other one. They'll pick that one up too. And that actually puts Mephi, for the time being, ahead, 59 to 53. See if he can hold on to it. Next target after that is the land factory. We do have one or two Sky Slammers on the ground. Beg your pardon, no Sky Slammers, just one boxer. Not, I beg your pardon again, not a boxer, that's the UEF T2. It's a banger, of course. It's the colors that are messing me up. Both races playing in opposite colors, but look at that. Two Stingers and a Janus down. Banger paying for itself and then some. Mephi now having another go at Zock's naval yard. And it's fair to say Zock not prioritizing Navy at all. Focusing much more heavily on ground attack, amphibious tanks. Whereas it seems like Air Force and Navy the focus at the moment for Mephi. And it's certainly the tack I'd like to take if I was running this game. I would instinctively think I'm going to go with amphibious land pressure. I'd want to grab my opponent's harbour and dump a few cruisers in here and forget about it and then focus elsewhere. Large air entanglement in the centre as Zock sends his fighters home to deal with the Stinger threat. Mephi, a lot of his planes are out of fuel. It's going to severely hamper his ability to defend these gunships. Already most of them into the yellow, some into the red. We have Sky Slammers on the ground and more boxers as well in the area. So these gunships getting whittled down pretty effectively while Zock chews up the fighters over here that are bingo on fuel. Meanwhile, a very successful land incursion has pushed its way down the eastern edge of the map from Zock. Engineers hurriedly building defenses down here in the main base. I think the Wagners aren't going to push any further in, instead seeing what they can pick up over here at the air production facilities. Janus forced to bomb their own P-gens and air factories in an attempt to kill off some of these Cybran tanks. Not looking great down there at the bottom right. All of the land threats have been contained. Just one banger remains. I want to kill that off as well, as it'll be raining. So much raining, reverse raining. 7 shades of poo up at every aircraft that takes off against those. The Stingers are brought home into a veritable maelstrom of Cybran fighters, and that coupled with the banger fire means that banger will remain. This is an awkward position now for Mephi. He has managed to take down the naval yard, so he's got naval superiority. Is he going for T2? Yes, he is. That's at 50%. You can get a cruiser online and park it in here. That should take care of the air situation, but he might be about to lose his air production facilities as another wave of T2 tanks roll in. Mephi trying to counter with some pillars over here, has to kind of pick off at them at range as best he can. Lots of Cybran tanks now arriving on the scene. Down goes one T2, there goes another. Hydro's about to follow shortly after. This is all Zock at the moment, And while all this is going on, he's edged ahead in mass production once again as well. Naval yard under construction now of a, looks like a destroyer. But there goes the last air factory. We've got T2 engineers now online, so we have a triad in production. That completes, but that entire section of the base now lies in ruins. Zock now challenging the front line with those Medusas and Rhinos. Last of the Medusas have been killed off. This will be a huge win on the ground if they can kill off these T2 P-Gens. They're still in range of the Triads back here. This is really gonna hurt. Mephi loses these two. I think he will hang on to at least one of them as pillars start to arrive. In the nick of time, he's managed to hold on to both of them. 10 hit points remaining. Ooh, you lucky git, Mephi. That was a close one. He wouldn't have been power locked had he lost him. Well, he would now. But it looked like he was floating about 800-900 power last time I checked him. So that is a very nice save indeed. Might want to get an engineer over there to just touch that up. Paintwork looking pretty shoddy. And all that while, Mephi contained, unable to make any forward progress on Zock's position. And would you look at that lead now? 18 strong, sorry, 28-point mass lead that was. Very, very comfortable indeed. Dropping slightly there as a mass extractor goes down. But still not looking too shabby at all. And that was the cruiser we talked about earlier, and he's now taking fire from that Wagner, and of course can't shoot back at that. It's going to need to get a destroyer in or a submarine or something. Submarine like the Tiger Sharks loitering just over there. But Mephi clearly concerned about matters elsewhere. And again, another little bit of harassment. I'm sure he'd rebuilt these a moment ago. That must be down to this Wagner here that has 17 kills to its name. It's about to get one more and another as it picks off the engineer. No. That was, it's like the Predator, that particular Wagner. It won't attack defenseless things. There's no sport in it. So another bit of pressure coming south on that eastern edge once again. If there is a silver lining for Mephi, it's that he managed to scoop up the mass from this base over here. He's about to lose the engineers, but small price to pay to grab as much of that reclaim as possible. Those T1 emplacements haven't been rebuilt though. Getting some work done on that very badly damaged fusion reactor. Not looking quite so bad now, still in the yellow, but considerably more healthy than it did just a moment ago. Zock has rebuilt his naval yard, has got some zappers in the Bay Area as well to help counter the Governor fire. Only one cruiser in position over here for now. Might be worth Mephi thinking about consolidating his naval units and trying to pressure one of these two bases. Zock will find it easy to contend with firepower coming off just one of those cruisers. Not a huge challenge for anyone. But Mephi must be itching now to score some payback. It's been under pressure for about the last 10 minutes or so. We'll want to try and turn this around as best he can. Mephi going for a gun upgrade on his comm. He's already got the TAC missile upgrade and the T2 engineering suite on board that comm. 44 kills on board. Should be able to do some damage over here. Not seeing that much TMD. He could pick off a couple of these T2 mexes, I think. No, he couldn't. Rapidly, massively rather, underestimated the range of the TMD there. More than enough to cover the important stuff in that base, but Mephi indeed looking like he's going to pressure the main starting base of Zock. But Zock has been allowed enough time to get a small frigate flotilla online. Another one complete there. That's 6. Won't be much use against the submarines. Give the cruisers cause for concern. They would just drop back, of course, and all the while be taking fire from the destroyer and the subs. There's another destroyer heading in as well, so definitely still outgunned on the naval scene. Now we'll see how well Mephi does with this attack. He's got a lot of T2 in there. We'll want to deal with the Cerberus turrets if he can. Those pillars getting tickled away. Meanwhile, down at the bottom right-hand corner, a massive air invasion from Zock. We're going to have to go to split screen to keep an eye on these two theaters simultaneously. Zock wasn't feeling the ground game anymore down in the bottom right-hand corner, so has gone full gunship attack and has the field in terms of airplay, and he's got more gunships to spare. He's going to send them after Mephi's comm. Mephi could be in trouble here. He's got no ground-to-air support at all. He's going to have to get his commander into the water. It's going to be very close indeed. He's down into the yellow already, below 7,000 hit points and falling, just touching into the water now, but he's got a ways to go before he gets safe. He's brought his naval units into play. He is going to get safe. But the cruisers have been pulled away. I'm not exactly sure why, whether maybe he just want to bring them back to help defend the main base, but the main base has been obliterated. Both of those fusion reactors are down. The external factories have come under fire. 2 of the 4 are down. The main air T2 HQ is under fire, as is the resourcing option. The core mass is getting picked apart. Only 2 T2s remaining, and Zock looking pretty comfortable right now. Mephi must score a killer blow at the top left base if he wants to stay in this. Zock now almost 40 mass ahead of Mephi in terms of eco. Now the air threat has dissipated from the top left. He's feeling like he might be able to bring his commander out once again. Down goes the naval factory. And this is good for Mephi. It will give him a chance to whittle down the base defenses and maybe take it out. But that bottom right-hand corner is gone. Zock has torn it apart with those gunships. Needs to kill off the engineers and the last rail guns there. Surely now we'll finish off that T2 Air HQ. That has been a very comfortable, very efficient air campaign down in that bottom right-hand corner. You compare that to the number of units that Mephi has lost up here. Not sure if Zock managed to save any or many of those gunships that he sent to attack Mephi's comm, or whether they all got picked off thanks to the naval units. But Mephi now getting a little forward fire base online. One triad online, another on the way. And it will be more than easy enough for him to continue that point defense creep in towards that top left-hand corner. Still the air campaign not completed down here at the bottom right. But this is really going to hurt. This has been a sole source of salvation so far for Mephi. This T2 Naval HQ doesn't want to lose that, doesn't want to give that up. And Zock now has one of his own at the top right, looking pretty comfortable. Serb turrets going up over here. Lots of zappers taking the edge off that governor fire. Mephi just going to set up shop with a new naval base. And now another platoon of Wagners, this time heading to the bottom left, and that's looking pretty vulnerable. And that's where the new T2 P-Gens for Mephi are located. Loses those, he's going to be power locked at current expenditure. But at least he's making promising inroads up at the top left-hand corner. But it's amazing how comprehensively Zock has dominated with his air units since Mephi lost his air force and those manufacturing facilities up here. And now Zock moving in with the NGs to capture that base. At naval headquarters being slowly killed off. Gunship out of power. One anti-air turret might be completed, but I don't think it's going to go online before that factory goes down. There it goes. And Zock will scoop the mass of that as well. But the campaign, the ground and naval campaign, has been successful finally for Mephi up at the top left-hand corner, and he's clawed back some, not all, but some of that mass deficit he was sitting at. It's a lot healthier than it was, 62 to 79 at current reading. There goes the last of the core mass, and of course he will be benefiting as well from all of those wrecks. But nice work. We weren't able to keep an eye on it, unfortunately, because there's too much going on. Nice work on the repulsion of that attack. He did lose one of those T2 P-Gens, but he's got enough power to be getting on with for the time being. You can see he probably wants to be spending more of that mass, but the power situation might be preventing him from doing just that. But this is the place to watch now. Zock has been behind in the naval game the entire game. And now he's the only one with an operational T2 naval headquarters. First Salem on the field, flanked by 3 Barracudas, and soon a Siren-class cruiser to boot as well. So suddenly Zock looking dangerous in the sea. So it's been a full-on base trade, both players losing their initial starting base, but Zock getting set up just a little bit quicker. And the first significant air group we've seen from Mephi of the game heads to the bottom right-hand corner to try and kill off some of the gunships, which are getting repaired now by the engineers. Zock sent in more gunships as a staging area down at the bottom right hand corner. Might want to get those guarded or withdraw them. or at least send the pretty serious number of aircraft he's got over here, but they are absolutely out of fuel, most of them. You can see that on about 13 seconds, slowly regenning, but not a lot left. Naval encounters going off in the center. Barracuda's chasing away those destroyers, those Valiants. Ground push from Mephi, trying to recapture his old base. Engineers with a couple of defensive structures online. Don't think Mephi's got enough tanks to pull this off. Those gunships we saw earlier were withdrawn. Not sure exactly where to. Surely they can't have been killed off. Be a terrible loss for Zock if he lost all of those. I'm guessing that's probably not the case. Must have withdrawn them somewhere, I'm just not seeing them. Entirely possible, I suppose, that Zock control K'd them somewhere and hoovered them up. But Mephi, with T2 naval production restored, is now shoving shield bulwark ships into the mix. That should give him an edge against Zock. Where did they come from? Another 3 Wagners running headlong into a couple of pillars. You really notice the difference there. The pure land-based vehicles against amphibious vehicles will always generally emerge victorious in an even fight. It's the trade-off you make. Mephi using his TAC missile on his comm. Hasn't forgotten about it, hasn't changed it up for something else. Going after vulnerable T2 mexes. Is it going to clear the hill? That looks actually quite close. No, it doesn't. Ouch. Needs to reposition his commander there to take out that T2 mex. Could probably grab this one, though. You can see there's another TAC missile heading in to do just that. I'm sure Zock will get on the TMD in this area ASAP, although it doesn't look like he's got any T2 engineers in the immediate vicinity. And now it's Zock's navy returning to the bottom right to try and dislodge Mephi, who's picked that up once again. So Meph actually with a good 60% map control for the time being. That's going to change in the immediate future with the looks of things, as he's pushed back along the top portion of the map. It also looks like he's losing the bottom right as well to that naval pressure. But even despite having the extra map control, unable to make it pay for the time being. 83 to 73 in favor of Zock. Always at times like this, Zock goes quiet. Looks like he yields a little bit of territory, a little bit of ground on any mass advantage he's got. It's usually because he's busy constructing something that changes everything, and in many cases pulls the win out of his proverbial backside. But who knows? Could we see an upset? Mephi at 2064 rating, certainly not a Joe. Couple of central mass extractors falling foul to Governor fire there from Mephi. But Zock looking to expand, setting his land forces in that bottom right hand corner just to the left of the starting location. It's got engineers back over here but hasn't sent them in yet to try and re-establish control. This is turning into a good old-fashioned naval fire slinging match. Mephi inches ahead in eco for the first time in a long time, then dips behind again, but it's much, much closer than it has been for some time. It's all going to come down to prioritization at this point. Who is going to funnel their resources into what play? Certainly seems to be naval production for the time being from both of these guys, although it's a pretty hefty air contingent for Mephi. But would you look at the number of Salems that have turned up in this game in the last 5 minutes or so. Zock just pumping them out. He's got 8 on the map so far. That compares to the 4 destroyers, the 4 Valiants that Mephi's got. Another one rolls off, clocks it back up to 5. Of course, the Siren much more effective ship to ship than the Governors. That effectively halts all cruiser production for the UEF, while Mephi can get a handle on this situation. I'm not 100% sure he's going to. This isn't looking great for Mephi. Torpedo bombers, those Storks sent in after the cruiser. They're going to pick that up. That's a nice play from Mephi. He's going to lose those torpedo bombers as Zock swarms in with his air force. Mephi will respond with his own. We're going to have a pretty serious mingling of air forces right now. Those Storks allowed a second run at some of the destroyers over here, and that's going to pick up a couple of destroyer kills. And it's a good thing for Mephi too, because things aren't looking great on the naval side of things. Hard to tell who's getting the better of the air game. I think it's definitely going actually in Mephi's favor. But even if he does tidy up all of these interceptors, he's got nothing lurking in any great number to hit back at these ships. One Stork inbound. Meanwhile, a couple of gunships taking advantage of the situation, heading south from Zock, going to pick up a mass extractor or two. But this is not great. Mephi finds his comms surrounded. He's still got the TAC missile on board that ACU, of course, putting it to good use against the destroyers over here. Hitting that one, taking it down to 1500 HP. In comes a Stork or two. But this is yet more fighting on Mephi's front door, something he could do without. Down go all of the naval yards. He should be able to hang on here, and he's managed to push Zock back in the bottom right-hand corner as well. We'll clock back up on that in just a second. Mephi in a little bit of danger still with his comm below 7,000 hit points. The Stork's doing good work now, though, with control of the skies firmly in Mephi's corner. However, lots of land units rolling out across the top from Zock. He could push in at any time and take out this set of core mass in here. Mephi looking very peaky indeed as the Barracuda dies out. He's down into the red, 2,300 hit points. The last destroyer goes down, and he will breathe a sigh of relief. Might want to rethink the idea of going out onto the beach, though, as the rhinos show up. There are pillars waiting for them. Again, another air fracas over the bay. So many airplanes and fighters have been shot down in this area of the map. 45 minutes gone in this one. And Zock still ahead in terms of eco, 79 to 67. Mephi hastily throwing up railguns around his commander. Must be just waiting for a torpedo bomber snipe attempt from Zock, but Mephi completely devoid of any naval power now whatsoever. It's all Zock, and Zock focusing heavily on the manufacturing of T2 units. A massive Janus strike on the front line of the bottom right hand corner there. Takes out a lot of defenses, and T2 units will want to kill off that banger. It's down to 55 HP. It's the only thing shooting back at the moment. However, interceptors arrive on the scene. Checking back in up over here. Yet more Salem's causing problems, but they're under serious pressure. It's been so back and forward in terms of who's prioritizing what. Mephi now once again in the ascendancy in terms of air power. That's allowing his Storks and his gunships to go relatively unchallenged in the skies when he takes care of the occasional cruiser or banger, that is. And setting up shop in the naval game in the bay area down here in the bottom right once again is Mephi. Lots and lots of engineers. Guess he feels if he can start production out over here, get some destroyers or cruisers online, he might be able to use those to help shove back this front line. However, we do have two more sirens rolling down to the bottom right, so I'm guessing that's not going to last too long. We had a TAC missile launcher constructed down here to harass the bottom left-hand corner, I'm guessing. That's unfortunately not going to get any playtime there at all as a wave of Stingers rock up to kill it off. But completely dislodged from the top left-hand corner once again is Mephi, as those ground units from Zock go herring down the left-hand edge of the map. Two triads waiting down there to stall that attack. In come the Stingers. Zock unable to combat those at the moment. Mephi with massive air control, but alas for him, unable to get established in the naval game once again at the bottom right hand corner as those cruisers show up, and of course not able to combat those with the gunships. They would be torn asunder. However, that front line has been demolished by Mephi's ground forces, moving the goalposts once again. It's been an incredibly fluid game for Eye of the Storm. These two bases changing hands once again. And once again, the middle being knocked out of commission. Mephi, his comms regen somewhat. 9,500 hit points of nigh on 20,000 at full strength. But this is going to hurt. Ground units moving forward to reinforce that position up there. Unable to challenge the range of the cruisers. Can't do anything about that. at the moment. Has to get naval play re-established, which is what he's trying to do this time at the bottom left-hand corner and the top left-hand corner. Surely he'll want to get out here and try and regain control of that resourcing option. No doubt feeling a little vulnerable after all of that pressure that so recently applied to his commander. Mephi has been in trouble a couple of times in this game with his commander. Only so many lives left, surely. Quick radar build as he rolls out and picking a good time to attack. Prevents the emplacements from going online down here. In come the gunships to assist. Question is, can he repel the attack that's likely to come from the sea? Zock has cleaned out the bottom right-hand corner. There's still this band of T2 tanks down here. Zock pressuring that from the land. He's got a tricky situation here, a decision to make. He's surely got to withdraw those cruisers. And that means it gives Mephi a chance, an opportunity to expand once again. However, the battle seems to have gone pretty well on the ground. Mephi will want to allow his pillars to catch up, so at least he can get some kind of formation going. But once again, things looking reasonably even in terms of map control. Mephi extending into the top left and the top right, although the top right still unutilized in terms of eco. But would you look at the disparity? 108 to 55. Zock and double the mass that his opponent's on. We have no killer experimental on the way or anything. We haven't seen a single experimental in this game. That's how finely balanced it's been. Neither player able to amass that kind of firepower. It's just been too finely balanced. Couldn't justify the expenditure on one thing. Would have lost too much ground somewhere else. And once again, Zock pushing back Mephi from the bottom right-hand corner. Still sitting on the middle, remember, as well. And those Storks unable to kill off the fleet, and Zock has come back with air production very nicely indeed. Where are we at? 62 interceptors versus Mephi's 51. He has another 27 on top of that, but they are out of fuel. Also, that makes a huge difference to their combat effectiveness. Mephi with lots of T1 naval yards, just trying to outspam Zock now with huge quantities of Tech 1. 52 minutes gone so far. Still doesn't feel like we're close to a resolution for this one. Although, having said that, time goes on, the tech level or tech composition of Mephi's forces seems to be dropping. Yes, we've got a lot of T2 torpedo bombers, but they're very inefficient up against huge hordes of cruisers, which is what we've got here. And everywhere else, it's mass T1 Navy, mass T1 land forces. We have a few pillars in here, but lots of T1 units in their Lobos and such. Mephi just waiting for an opening so he can do something. This is pretty dangerous now because his commander is more or less cornered. Quite literally, it's at full health now, having regened from pretty critical levels back up to 19,600 hit points, but once again the danger seems to pass over him. Zock sweeping south with his cruisers. Large air engagement ensues at the eastern edge of the map. In come the cruisers and destroyers to the bottom left-hand corner, which has been left relatively unmolested for the, well, I suppose most of the game. You can see it's easily Mephi's most well-developed part of the map, but reluctant to engage with those stalks. Mephi airlifting his commander to the bottom left-hand corner. Needs to stay away from those cruisers. What is he doing? He's thought about it. Again, Zock moving with his fighters to that portion of the map, and you can see the way they're sweeping up towards the transport. But that's what they're going for. Do not pick up your commander again. Leave it on the ground. What on earth is going on? It's locked onto the commander. That was pretty hairy. But GG thrown out by Mephi anyway. He doesn't like where this is going. The naval units are obliterating the bottom left. He's got no answer to it. The top left has been just bulldozed by a huge stream of T1. There's a little bit of movement in Mephi's favor at the bottom right, but that could easily be countered, I'm sure. He sent gunships, and actually it looked like transports up to Zock's base. Mephi just unsure how to counter what was coming his way in control Ks after throwing out the GG. And Zock, unsurprisingly, pulls out another win at 55 minutes, though. Kudos there. Mephi felt like he should have won it. It was a pretty spectacular battle, it has to be said. But it really does make you wonder who can defeat Zock. I know he'll lose the occasional game every now and again, but every time there's a game worth watching that comes across my desk, it's it always seems to be Zock pulling out the win. I think you're just going to have to start going 2v1 Zock. It's the only way we're going to get a fair game. But what a match. Very well played, both guys, especially Mephi, who did look like he had it in certain parts of the game. I hope you enjoyed it. There's always more to come from me in the future, guys. Don't forget you can support me on Patreon if you feel so inclined. But until next time, guys, stay well and stay safe. This is Guile, signing out.